we all hear my voice? If you can hear my voice, please put it on the chat box. All right. Thank you very much. Let's make a start. So let me share my screen. I believe that you can see my screen. Can you all see my screen, please? Please put it in the chat box that you can see my screen. All right, thank you. So let's wait for people that are joining, maybe the next 1 minute. So we'll start by 5:05. So while we are waiting, let me make this announcement about those that have dropped their, have showed interest, that have chatted me, they want to do a video PR. Kindly send me the video before the end of this week. That is on or before Saturday. And also about the project. So I'm going to be giving the project by, I'm going to be giving us the project before the end of this week. So I expect you to have 2 weeks to do it. And so you send it back to me after the 2 weeks. Then that is when you are now qualified that I can give you a certificate. So without that, I won't be able to give you a certificate. I'm sorry. Should we make a start now? Now, I believe that you still remember our dashboard, our report, and you still remember this data properly. I believe you still remember this data properly. All right, so you guys are responding to me. So let me continue. All right, so we did some DAX calculation last week. So we calculated total customer, total order, total quantity, and did we created a chart for customer? Okay, we calculated total customer. Then we have our sales. We have our sales. All right, so today I want to introduce you to another thing in DAX, which is date differences. That is, if you want to calculate date differences. So for example, now, if as we have this data here now, just in case you receive a mail from one of your stakeholders, that can we know the total number of sales in the last 30 days. So how are you going to go about that? The total number of sales in the last 30 days. How are you going to go about it? So let's make a start. So I'll click on new measure. So let me call the title as the total sales in last 30 days. So total sales in the last 30 days, that's what we want to name it. So how do we do that? So we make use of the calculate. And like I told you last week about what is DAX, which is data analysis expression. So what now? We want to calculate the total sales in the last 30 days. So obviously, you know that we are going to make use of total sales, isn't it? So total sales. So what again? We want to now calculate for 30 days. So that is where we are going to introduce our dates. So comma. Now you can expand this so that you can write properly. Then I used the shift and down to move it to another page. Shift down to move it to another page. Although we can still have it like this as well, and we can still write it, but just to make it clean, that's why I did it like that. So date. Now look at what I want somebody to look. What are we going to use in all this? Date add, date difference, date between, dates in period. Don't Google it. Just 1 second. Just type it. What are we going to use? Dates. As I type date here, you can see that it brought out the date table, date add. What do you think we are going to use? Is somebody typing? What do you think that we are going to use? Sorry, let me bring it out again. So we have date add, date difference, first date, last date, but we are not looking for last date. So what do you think we are going to use between all of these? Date differences, date period. Is anybody typing? Dates in period. Oh, have you Googled it? Well, now those people that are saying date differences, you might be right. However, in this situation, we are not, we have just one date column. So date difference is not going to work. Do you understand it now? So for example, if I have 2 date column and I want to find differences between those 2 date column, maybe I have decision dates and I have received dates, and I want to find the differences between those dates. So obviously I'm going to use date differences. But those people that said date in period, so I believe you did not Google it. So let me hope that you did not Google it. So we go to order and we go to order dates because that's our date. That's our dates column. So the order dates, then to go to another line, you have to click on Shift Enter just to make your code to be cleaner. So we say maximum order with the order dates. That is, we want the maximum order of the order dates in the last 30 days. So you can see that here we have the syntax, the column name or scalar 1 and scalar 2. So our scalar 2 is what? The last 30 days. And what do we need to put here again? Well, it is what? Day. Please, can we accept these people because they are actually disturbing. Like, I'm not saying those things properly. I'm not saying what I'm doing properly. So I'm supposed to close the bracket here. Maximum, okay, no, not that place. maximum calculates the total sales, the date in period, order dates, max, order dates, minus 30 and day. Date in period. Okay, there's a bracket that I've not closed, and that is why it's giving error here. There's a bracket that I've not closed. I'm having 1, 2, 3 brackets. So I'm only closing 2. So I'm supposed to close this. I'm supposed to close the maximum bracket here. Yeah, that's perfect. So now you can see that there is no error. So what this means is that, let me explain it to you. Calculate the total sales. What is the date in period? 30 days. That's why we have 30 days here. Now, if it is months, that means I will change this to what? But you know, our data is just within 12 months. So if it's like we have, our data is just for 2024. So that means we only have 12 months. So that is why I am using day. So this is to say that what is the maximum order in the last 30 days. So then you click on the commit button, and obviously we will have our total sales. We can see that is there. We have our total sales in the last 30 days. We have it there. So we can represent it by a card. So we want to know the total sales in the last 30 days. So this is, I'm coming. Let me delete this. Let me copy this and paste it. So let me change this to total sales. So we have, this is the total sales in the last 30 days, 1,711. Now, with this formula again, we can also calculate the total quantity that was sold in the last 30 days. We can calculate the total quantity that was sold in the last 30 days, or let us say the total quantity that was sold in the last 60 days. And so let's create a new measure. So we want to calculate the total quantity sold in the last 60 days. So total quantity sold last 60 days. Total quantity sold in the last 60 days. So again, we use our calculates. Now here, our expression will be what? Total what? Total quantity. That is, which is the total quantity sold. So total quantity sold. Then we have a comma, and we bring it down again. Then obviously it's dates in period that we are going to use as well. So dates in period, and so it will now be order dates, then comma, then we push this down, and we have maximum orders and the order dates. So I will close that, then minus 60, because it's 60 that we want to do. So we have day Then I will close both brackets like that. So this will give us the total number of quantity that was sold in the last 60 days. So let me commit it. So generally today, I'm just teaching some things on advanced DAX, which is the data analysis expression. So here we have our total quantity sold in the last 60 days. So let me copy this and let's have it here. So we have 71 quantity that was sold in the last 60 days. However, I still want to have, I want to do maybe for the total orders as well. But let me see. Okay, why is it that it is minus? Why did you use the minus sign? Why is it minus 30 and not just 30? Sometimes it depends on the version of the Power BI you are using. Some Power BI will accept 30 and some Power BI will not accept but every Power BI will accept minus 30. So I'm teaching a general class, and so I must use the general, that's why I'm using the general, like the general stuff that it will be acceptable. It's just like if you are using Excel 2013, there are some formulas that might not work. There are some formulas that might not work in Excel 2013, and if I'm using Excel 365, that is going to work here because it's an upgraded version. So I need to teach the basics. So in some Power BI apps, it's going to work, like some of the latest is going to work, but it's because it's a general class. So that's why I'm putting it like that, so that when you will not chat me that, oh, when I was working and I put 30, it did not work. So do we understand it now? Why I put 30 there? So that was why I put 30 there. It's not because of any other thing. All right, thank you. So it's just for general case. So let's also calculate the total order as well that was sold. Let's now calculate total order that was sold in the last, let's say, 180 days. I'm using some of these days. I could have said in the last 20 days, in the last 25 days. But as somebody that has experience, when you receive email from stakeholders, they don't ask you odd numbers. They ask you, okay, in the last one month, can we get this? In the last 2 months. So that's why you see me saying 30 days, 60 days, because that gives us a whole 1 month. And when it comes to last 6 months, you calculate it based on, I think 265 divided by 2 will give us 182. You don't use 183, you use 182. So if you are calculating 6 months, you are not going to use 180. So if, for example, if you are told to calculate, let's calculate the last order in the last 6 months, you are not going to use 180 days. You are going to use 182 days. That is what you are going to use. So in your various homes, you can calculate total sales in the last 180 days, total sales in the last 60 days. But what I want to calculate now is total order in the last 180 days. So what is the total order in the last 180 days? So what is the order in the last 180 days? Let me copy this, then put it in. So we apply the same principle, and I'll create a new measure as well. So total order in the total order last, let me just say last 6 months. So last 6 months is going to be 100 and what? 182 days. So that will be calculate. So you calculate, then you move cell total order, then you have a comma and shift enter to press it down. So dates in period, then you have order dates, comma, and you have the maximum order dates. So the reason why we are closing our maximum here is because is what is a function. Let me explain it to you again. Now this date period, let me bring it closer like this so that you will understand. Now this date period, let me explain it so that, let me explain how these brackets are working so that you are going to understand me. I want to explain how those brackets work and how they calculate so that even in case you miss out, at least you are going to, you will still understand it. If I use 180 days, it's still going to work. There's no error in that. Now, calculate total order. Now, that's the first calculation we want to do. So we are now saying dates in period between these order dates and the maximum order dates of 182 days. So that is why, firstly, we close this function in A so that it can calculate it for us. And what do we want? The last 82 days. And so that's why we are closing the brackets here, because this is a function. This is another function which is date in period. So we want to calculate the dates in period between these order dates and the maximum order dates. And so minus 182, and we have day that is here. So I believe that we got it now. So I'm repeating some of these things so that at least you will, if you miss out on the first two that I did, at least you are going to get it. Why the bracket was not closed here. Like, that is why we didn't close our bracket here, because the date function is for the order dates here and also the maximum order date. So that is what we are calculating, the date period between these two. That's what we are calculating. So for example, if I have order date here and I have maybe another date column, that is here, I can make use of date difference. So what is going to be here? For example, if I have like a decision date and received date, that is the day a case was decided and the date it was received, and I want to calculate the differences, that's what will make you to use date differences. And you have the day, the amount here, and you have the day here. So I will commit it, then I'll close this. So let's look at the total number of order in the last. So this is the total number of order. Total number of order in the last 6 months. Let me rename it as total orders last 6 months. Okay, any question again before I proceed? All right. So in the absence of no question, let me continue. Now, so we know that when you want to inform your stakeholders here, you can tell them that the total number of order in the last 6 months is what? Is 60. So what if they want to know the day in which the last order was taken? That is, this data now is from January 1 to December 2024. Don't forget that is a fake data. So what if they want to know the day in which the last order was made? What's the date in which the last order was made? So also you are going to make use of DAX. So how do we go about that? The date in which the last order was made. So how do we go about it? So let me replicate this as well. But even if you want to know the breakdown of how these last 6 months went, you know that you can go to how these last 6 months went. Like, you can come here and go to other dates and create, before I go to that line chart, months, then total order in the last 6 months. I'm coming. Yeah, our total order here is 100. So, and the total order in the last 6 months is, in the last 6 months is 60. Okay. I think it's just a year that was there. Okay, quarter and total quantity. So okay, it did it quarterly by quarter. Okay. Okay. Now I get it. That's why you need to use a card figure. So let's calculate what I just said now. That is the day since in which the last order was made. So if your stakeholder wants to find out the day, that is, can we know the last day in which the last order was sold? That is, what's the last date in which the last order was sold? So how do you go about that? So we are still going to make use of the date field. So let me click on day since last order. So we have day since last order. Now, here, we want to know the date in which the last order was made. Now, the last order was made, we want to know when the last date in which the last order was made. Obviously, we are going to make use of the order dates. But now, are we making use of the dates in period or the date difference? Anybody? Are we making use of the date in period or the date difference? I've limited the options now. Date difference. Why did you say date difference? All right, I know that you cannot talk. Okay. Now, the reason why they are both right, the reason why we are going to make use of date difference is because we have our maximum order dates and we are going to separate it. There's something even in Python, you have today. If you want to know today's date, you can put today and it's going to print today's date for you. So even in Power BI also, there's a function known as today, which is the date of today. The date of today. That is what it means, the date of today. So this is where date difference comes in. So at least I've used two functions for you now. I've used the date in period, date difference. So we have maximum order date. So we close this and we have today. So you can see that there's a function in Power BI that is what? Today. Why are we using today? Because we want to know the last date in which the order was made. So we want to know the differences. And that's why we are using, that is, day in which the last order was made. So it's not like we are calculating total orders. We are calculating the days in which the last order was made. So what we are calculating is difference between days. Do you understand it now? That's what we are calculating. So when you are calculating differences, that's when you make use of date difference. Let me change this to days because it's not going to be one day, obviously. So days in which the last order was made. So let me see if I've closed all the brackets. 1, 2. Yeah, this one is closed. That is closed. Yeah. So the last order was made 47 days ago. That was when the last order was made. Do we have any question? Yeah, because we want to know a specific date and we are doing differences between days. Now, there are sometimes that you might need, they might want to know, for example, if you have like a decision date or receive date, that or the day a order was received and the day a order was sent. So you can have two sets of dates, but in this data we don't have two sets of dates. So you can have two sets of dates. You can have two sets of dates in a data, and so they want to know how many orders. Maybe they usually receive a lot of order in the company, and so they want to know how many orders were actually received within a 6-month period. So with that, you are going to make use of what? Date difference. And when you make use of date difference, then you can now code it and say that when the date difference is above or is equal to, is less than or equal to 182 days, then that means yes, within 6 months. So, and if not, no. But it's because here we are just having one date, which is the order date. So but if we have the date the order was received, like a received date, the order was received, and we have the day the order was attended to, or the day the order was sent. For example, now if you order something from Amazon, so that's the day the order was received, and the day the order was sent will also be another day. Most of the time it's not that same day. So if they want to know the rates at which orders are being I'm trying to tell you where you use date differences in when you are working in an organization. That's why I'm explaining how you use date differences, because that's where I've used it, and I'm just explaining the practical application of it. So all you need to do is, just like I've done here, if you are calculating those differences, all you need to do, just like I've done here, is to put the day the order was received here and put the day the day the order was sent. Maybe sent date, order sent date, and order received date, and you put day here. So that will give you the differences between both days. And they might want to know that, okay, if somebody orders and before they attend to that order is more than 5 days, can we know how many orders was like that? Can we know how many orders exceeded 5 days? So there's something in an organization that is called service, like a service, like you having like a service user guide for your customers, that every order, no matter the order, within 10 days is going to be sent. So if they want to know those that does not follow that time, that does not follow the time period, so that's when you as a data analyst will make use of date differences. So do we understand it now? Yes. What it means is that no order was made in the last 47 days. That's it. Because that was the date that the last order was made. What it means is that no order was made in the last 47 days. That's what it means. So that means that no order was made there was no order within the last 47 days. The last date in which order was made was 47 days. Do we still have any question? Do we have any question? All right. So in the absence of no question, next week, kindly bring as many questions as possible. I still have a lot that I can still teach you on DAX, 100%. Today, what we talked about is dates, and I've taught you date in period, date differences, and the likes. So I will have some things that I want to teach, but very few. But the first question I'm going to ask is, all the things that we've learned, if you don't understand it, even if it is first week, I will go back to it and I will teach it again, even if it is first week. So gather your questions next week and come to the class with your question. So if you have any question, I will treat it next week. Any question that you want me to treat, even if it is, as long as we have treated it in the past 6 weeks. So even if it is the first week or the second week or the third week, I'm going to treat it. So bring all your questions. So the first question that we ask next week is, if you have any question, kindly type it and I will attend to it. So the other time when I will tell you that, oh, go back and watch the video of no. So next week is, although if nobody has any question, I will continue my DAX and I will re-explain some of those things and just do like an overview of those basic things that I've taught you Yeah, will you please use more code from dates? Yes, I will use more code from dates, but I want people to ask questions. But I can use more codes on dates next week. But I want people to ask more questions. I want people to ask more questions. But I just gave you, it's not about only code alone. The most important thing is that I those two, let me be more sincere with you. When you are working in an organization, what you will be using mostly is date in period and date differences. Although you are going to use if I'm coming. Hang on. I want you to bring out. There's another one that I know that I usually use frequently. Yeah, you are going to be using date add, and you can be using date first date as well and last date as well. Because if you want to calculate the first date of order now, we can do that. The last date in which order was made, we can do that as well. So you can be using that. But you see, all these date, SNTD, they have their own function, date value, all those things. But mostly in organization, you will not mostly use it. But you will be using first date, last date. There are some of the things that I can still put you through next week. But I want people to ask questions. So it's not about rushing. The most important thing is what I've taught within the few weeks, you are actually able to do it, which is very, very important. And when I give you projects to do, then you can also solve it as well. So in the absence of no question, let me just go over what I've taught again. So majorly today, what we did is just on dates, looking at the last 30 days, the last 60 days, and using, so when you hear a date period, that is, I want to know the last 6 months, you know that you are going to make use of the dates in period. That's what you are going to make use of. Now, and here as well. But when you hear something like, can we know the time in between the dates? That is, the differences between the dates between when order was received and when orders was sent. Already, you know that it's going to be date difference. Nobody needs to tell you, because even from the email, it has stated that can we know the time? That can we know the differences between when order was received and the date in which order was received and when order was sent. So obviously, you yourself, you know that it's going to be date difference. And all you just need to do is to follow the syntax that is here in Power BI. That's all you just need to do. And even if you feel like you are getting it wrong, just put it on Google. In organizations, everybody use Google. So don't let anybody gaslight you that I know everything. Everybody use Google. If I'm writing the code in my organization, I use Google and see to check whether what I'm doing is right or not. So the only thing I don't encourage young beginners, if you are just learning code, if you are just learning Power BI, is to be using AI frequently, because it's going to make you a lazy, or don't let me use the word lazy, but how do you will think you know, but you don't know actually. So it's going to give you like a fake representation of yourself. But when you use Google, when you experience error and you use Google, you try to learn from that error. I'm not saying you should not use AI. That's not my opinion, no. So that you will not criticize me. I'm just saying that if you actually want to learn, when you use Google for some things, you tend to learn what others have done before, how they did it, and how they solved it, what other things could cause that error. But whereas when you use AI, you just get your solution straight, papa, and you quickly do it. You quickly get it that. So for somebody that is an expert that needs a quick solution, I can't tell that person that you should not use AI. That person knows what he's doing. And let me tell you, AI is not 100% right. It's not that it's 100% right every time. So, but for somebody that is just learning and you go and use AI, obviously you are going to have challenges.